The restaurant lights dimmed as Oliver dropped to one knee. I watched his mouth move, forming words I couldn't quite hear over the sudden rushing in my ears. The ring box opened, revealing a diamond that caught the candlelight. Around us, strangers stopped eating. Phones appeared. Someone gasped. My heart should have been racing with joy, but instead it hammered with something else entirely. Something cold. My purse vibrated against my hip once, then twice, then 3 times in quick succession. I kept my eyes on Oliver's face, watching him smile, that smile I'd loved for 3 years. The smile I'd trusted. My hand trembled as I reached into my purse, just enough to glimpse the screen. Unknown number. 3 messages waiting. Oliver's voice broke through my fog, asking the question everyone expected. I looked at the ring, then at his hopeful eyes, then back at my phone's glowing notification. The timestamp read 90 seconds ago. Something inside me whispered that everything was about to change. I pulled my hand back from my purse and focused on Oliver. His eyes were wet with emotion. Real tears. Or maybe just practiced ones. Around us, the restaurant had gone silent except for the soft music playing overhead. A woman at the next table had her hands pressed to her mouth. Oliver's voice steadied as he finished his speech about forever and partnership and building a life together. Words I'd imagined hearing for months. Words that should have felt like a beginning. Instead, they felt like an ending I didn't understand yet. My phone buzzed again, softer this time, as if it knew to hide. I forced myself to smile. Nod. To let the tears that were already forming do their work. When I whispered yes, the restaurant erupted. Applause crashed over us like a wave. Oliver stood and pulled me into his arms, the ring sliding onto my finger with a weight that felt wrong. My phone continued its silent vibration against my body. Oliver kissed me while cameras flashed. Someone popped a bottle of champagne that wasn't ours. The manager appeared with complimentary dessert, grinning like he'd personally orchestrated this moment. I let Oliver hold my hand up, showing the ring to strangers who cheered like they knew us. My cheeks ached from smiling. My throat felt tight from forcing excitement into my voice when people congratulated us. The whole time, my phone sat in my purse like a bomb I couldn't defuse. Oliver leaned close, his breath warm against my ear. "I was so nervous you might say no," he whispered. The sincerity in his voice made my stomach turn. I squeezed his hand and told him I loved him. The words came automatically after 3 years together. But for the first time they tasted like lies. My phone buzzed twice more. Oliver didn't seem to notice. I excused myself to the bathroom, keeping my smile intact until the door swung shut behind me. The silence hit like a slap. I locked myself in the furthest stall and finally looked at my phone. 5 messages from an unknown number. My hands shook as I opened them. The first message was simple. He told me tonight was about his sister's birthday dinner. The second asked if I was with him right now. The third came with a photo attachment I wasn't ready to open yet. The fourth was a question that made my blood run cold. Did he propose already? The fifth simply said, "I need you to know the truth." I sat on the closed toilet lid and stared at those words. The truth. As if truth was something solid, something you could hold. As if it wasn't about to shatter into pieces I'd have to pick up one by one. I took a breath and opened the photo. Oliver's face filled my screen. He was smiling at the camera, wearing the blue sweater I'd given him for his birthday. The one he said made him feel confident. In the photo, his arm was around someone. A woman with dark hair and a bright smile. They were standing in front of a Christmas tree, the kind of photo couples take during the holidays. I stared at it until the image burned into my vision. Then I scrolled up. The message thread didn't start tonight. It went back weeks, months. My vision blurred as I scanned through them. Inside jokes, pet names, plans to meet up. Screenshots of texts where he called her beautiful. Photos of flowers he'd apparently sent. And there, dated 3 weeks ago, a message that stopped my heart. "Can't wait to spend the rest of my life with you." I pressed my palm against my mouth to keep from making a sound. Outside the stall, I heard women laughing, washing their hands, living normal lives. My name is Vanessa Torres. I'm 31 years old, and until tonight, I believed I knew exactly who I was marrying. Oliver and I met at a friend's wedding 3 years ago. He caught the garter, caught the bouquet. Everyone joked it was fate. We moved in together after 18 months. Got a cat named Machi. Talked about starting a family. He worked in software development, traveled sometimes for conferences, kept regular hours. I'm a graphic designer, mostly freelance, which meant I was home a lot. Available. Trusting. I never questioned the late meetings or the weekends he spent helping his brother move, or visiting his parents. I never thought to look closer at the phone he kept face down on every surface. I thought consistency meant honesty. I thought routine meant safety. I was wrong about everything. I scrolled further back in the message thread. April, March, February. The timestamps painted a picture I didn't want to see. While I was planning our anniversary dinner in March, he was texting her good morning. While I was visiting my sick mother in February, he was making weekend plans with her. While I was designing our Christmas cards in December, he was taking that photo in front of her tree. Every memory I had was now split in two. Every moment we'd shared had a shadow moment I'd never known about. My hands trembled as I reached the beginning of the thread. September 2 years ago. Great meeting you today, the first message read. Can't stop thinking about our conversation. His reply came 5 minutes later. Me either. When can I see you again? I felt something crack inside my chest. Not my heart exactly. Something harder. Something I'd built to protect myself. And it was shattering. I saved every screenshot, every photo, every message. My fingers moved mechanically, capturing evidence I wasn't sure I'd need but knew I couldn't lose. Then I opened my camera roll and started scrolling through my own photos. There we were at the beach last summer. Me smiling. Him with his arm around me. His phone in his other hand. Probably texting her. There we were at his company party. Me in my new dress. Him looking distracted. Probably worried she'd call. There we were on my birthday. Me blowing out candles. Him checking his watch. Probably counting down until he could leave. Every photo was poison now. Every memory was suspect. I wanted to scream. Throw the phone. To storm out there and destroy the fake celebration happening at our table. Instead I stood up. Washed my hands. Fixed my lipstick. Looked at myself in the mirror and barely recognized the woman staring back. Then I walked out smiling. Oliver stood when I returned to the table, pulling out my chair like a gentleman. The ring caught the light as I sat down. It was beautiful. Exactly what I would have chosen if he'd asked. Which meant he knew me. Really knew me. And still chose to do this. You okay? He asked, his hand covering mine. You were gone a while. I nodded and told him I'd called my mom to share the news. The lie came easily. Too easily. He smiled and squeezed my hand. What did she say? I told him she cried happy tears. Another lie. I hadn't called anyone. I'd been too busy discovering that my life was built on a foundation that never existed. He launched into a story about how nervous he'd been planning tonight. How he'd called the restaurant 3 times to confirm the reservation. How he'd practiced the proposal in his car. I listened and nodded and smiled. And my phone buzzed again. I excused myself again when dessert arrived, claiming I needed to text my sister back. In the bathroom, I opened the new message. I'm sorry to do this tonight, it read. But you deserve to know before you make any permanent decisions. His name is Oliver Grant. You probably know him as someone who works late a lot. Someone who travels for work. Someone who's busy but makes time. That's what he told me too. For 2 years I believed him. I thought I was the only one. My breath caught. 2 years. While I'd been falling deeper in love, building a future, imagining children and grandchildren and growing old together, he'd been building something identical somewhere else. With someone else. Someone who thought she was the only one too. Type back. Who are you? The response came immediately. Someone who thought she was engaged to the same man. Until I saw your photo on his Instagram tonight. My vision tunneled. His Instagram. The account he barely used. The one he said he kept just to follow his friends. I opened the app with shaking hands and found his profile. There, posted 40 minutes ago, was a photo of us. Me with the ring. Him with his arm around me. The caption read, "She said yes. Luckiest man alive." The comments were already rolling in. "Congratulations. So happy for you guys. About time." And then, near the bottom, a comment from an account I didn't recognize. "Congratulations on your engagement, Oliver. I'm sure she'll be very happy." No emoji. No exclamation point. Just a period that felt like a knife. I clicked on the account. Private. No profile picture. But the username was enough. It was her. Watching. Knowing. Commenting on the lie in real time. Felt sick. The bathroom walls seemed to close in. I gripped the sink and forced myself to breathe. Then I saved the screenshot and went back outside. Oliver was laughing with the couple at the next table when I returned. They were congratulating him, asking about wedding plans, offering unsolicited advice about venues and photographers. He was eating it up, playing the role of the excited groom. I slid into my seat and he immediately reached for my hand again. "There she is," he said warmly. "My fiancée." The word sounded wrong in his mouth. "Hello." I smiled and let him kiss my cheek while strangers applauded our love story. A story I now knew was fiction. My phone buzzed. I ignored it. Oliver suggested we head home soon, start celebrating properly. His eyes had that look. The one that used to make me feel desired. Now it just made me feel used. I agreed and stood up, letting him help me with my coat like I was someone fragile. Someone who needed protecting. Someone who didn't know what he'd done. We walked to his car in silence. Oliver hummed under his breath, his hand in mine, swinging our arms like we were teenagers. The night was cold and clear. Stars were visible despite the city lights. Should have been perfect. Instead, it felt like a funeral. Oliver opened my door and kissed me before I got in. "I love you so much," he said. Tonight was everything I dreamed it would be. I told him I loved him too. The words were ash in my mouth. He drove home with one hand on my thigh, talking about calling his parents in the morning, about posting more photos, about how his co-workers would react. I watched the streetlights pass and thought about the other woman, the one who was probably sitting in her own apartment right now, staring at the same Instagram post, feeling the same betrayal. We were connected now in a way Oliver never intended. Two women who loved the same man. Or thought we did. Home, Oliver poured champagne, made a toast to our future, pulled me onto the couch and talked about honeymoon destinations. I sat there with a glass in my hand, the ring on my finger, and let him paint a picture of a life that would never happen. When he finally went to shower, I grabbed my laptop and created a fake Instagram account. Found her profile again. Requested to follow. To my surprise, she accepted within minutes. I scrolled through her photos. There he was at a concert I thought he'd attended for work. There he was at a restaurant I'd never been to. There he was on a hiking trail he told me he'd gone to alone. Every photo was a new revelation. A new lie. A new piece of the double life he'd constructed so carefully. She'd posted a photo 3 hours ago. A close-up of her hand holding a glass of wine. No ring. The caption said, "Sometimes the hardest thing and the right thing are the same." She knew. She'd known before she messaged me. Oliver emerged from the shower in his robe, still glowing from the proposal high. He pulled me into bed and kissed my neck. Whispered about how he couldn't wait to make me his wife. I let him hold me and pretended everything was normal. Pretended I didn't know. Pretended the phone charging on my nightstand wasn't full of evidence that would destroy us. He fell asleep quickly, one arm draped across my waist. I lay there in the dark and stared at the ceiling. Thought about confronting him, screaming, throwing him out, burning everything he owned. But something held me back. Maybe it was shock. Maybe it was strategy. Men like Oliver, men who could maintain 2 relationships for 2 years, they didn't make mistakes. They were careful, calculated. If I reacted now, emotionally, he'd find a way to twist it. Make me the crazy one. Make her the liar. I needed to be smarter than that. I needed to be certain. I messaged her the next morning after Oliver left for work. I need to talk to you. Can we meet? She responded immediately. Coffee shop on 5th Street. 2 o'clock. I arrived early and chose a corner table where I could see the door. She walked in at exactly 2, and I recognized her immediately from the photos. She was younger than me. Maybe 27. Pretty in a way that made my stomach hurt. She spotted me and walked over with the kind of confidence that comes from being sure you're doing the right thing. We didn't shake hands. Didn't smile. Just sat across from each other and stared. My name is Brooke, she said finally. I've been with Oliver for 2 years. He told me he worked late because his company was launching a new product. He told me the weekends he disappeared were for his parents who live upstate. He told me everything except the truth. Brooke pulled out her phone and slid it across the table. I scrolled through messages that mirrored mine almost exactly. The same good morning text, the same promises, the same plans for a future together. He proposed to me in March, she said quietly. Took me to a restaurant downtown. Got down on one knee. Gave me a ring. She paused and I saw her hand shake as she reached for her coffee. I said yes. Wore the ring for 3 days. Then he said he wanted to wait to announce it. Said his parents were going through something and he didn't want to overshadow their problems with our happiness. I believed him. She looked at me with red-rimmed eyes. When did he propose to you? I told her last night. She nodded slowly. He told me last night was his sister's birthday. Said he'd text me after dinner. He never did. We sat in that coffee shop for 2 hours. Comparing stories. Filling in gaps. Building a timeline that painted a complete picture of Oliver's double life. He'd told her he worked from home Tuesdays and Thursdays. He told me he had mandatory office days Tuesdays and Thursdays. He'd told her he visited his parents every other weekend. He told me those weekends were work conferences. The precision was terrifying. He'd constructed 2 entirely separate lives with the same level of detail, the same level of care. Neither of us was an accident. Neither of us was a fling. We were both full relationships in his mind. Cool. Parallel. Sustainable. Did you ever suspect? Brooke asked. I wanted to say yes. Wanted to claim I'd had doubts. But the truth was worse. Never, I admitted. Not once. She nodded. Me neither. He was perfect. Attentive. Present. I thought I was the luckiest woman alive. We exchanged every piece of evidence we had. Screenshots, photos, voice memos he'd sent. Videos of him saying he loved us. The more we shared, the clearer the pattern became. He wasn't sloppy. He was methodical. Every lie had a backup lie. Every story had supporting details. He'd created an entire architecture of deception and maintained it flawlessly for 2 years. What do you want to do? Brooke asked finally. I'd been thinking about that all night. About confrontation and revenge and justice. About making him hurt the way we hurt. But I was tired. So tired. I want to disappear, I said. I want to take everything that's mine and vanish. Let him wake up one day and realize he lost everything because he wanted everything. Brooke smiled. It was small and sad but real. I like that plan. We finished our coffee and stood to leave. Thank you for reaching out, I said. She hugged me. Thank you for believing me. I spent the next week quietly dismantling the life I'd built with Oliver. I opened a new bank account and rerouted my direct deposits. I contacted my landlord from before we moved in together and asked if he had any units available. I started moving my things in boxes I hid in my car trunk. Small things Oliver wouldn't notice. Photos. Book. Clothes. Every day I smiled and played the excited bride-to-be. Every night I packed another piece of my life away. Oliver didn't notice. He was too busy planning our engagement party, texting his parents, showing off my ring to his coworkers, playing the role he'd perfected. Brooke texted me updates. She was doing the same thing, creating distance, building an exit strategy. We were mirrors of each other. Two women extracting themselves from the same lie. Oliver thought he was winning. He had no idea he'd already lost. The breaking point came on a Tuesday, Oliver's supposed work-from-home day. I told him I had a client meeting and left the apartment. Instead, I parked down the street and waited. At 10:15, Brooke's car pulled up to our building. I watched through binoculars as Oliver came outside, kissed her, and helped her inside with grocery bags. They stayed in our apartment for 3 hours. The apartment I paid half the rent on. The bed I slept in. The life I thought was mine. When Brooke finally left, I drove around aimlessly, crying, screaming, hitting the steering wheel until my hands hurt. Then I dried my face, fixed my makeup, and went home. Oliver was on the couch playing video games. "How was your meeting?" he asked without looking up. "Productive," I said. "Very productive." That night, I slept on the far edge of the bed. He didn't notice. On Friday, I told Oliver I needed to visit my mother for the weekend. He kissed me goodbye and told me to drive safely. I loaded the last of my things into my car and drove to my new apartment. Brooke met me there. We'd rented a place together. 2 bedrooms, shared living space, a temporary arrangement while we rebuilt our separate lives. Felt right somehow. The only other person who understood. That night, we sat on the floor of our empty living room and wrote everything down. Every lie, every manipulation, every duplicated promise. We printed it all out. Screenshots, timelines, evidence. Then we drafted a single message. Simple, clear, true. We sent it to Oliver simultaneously, from both our phones, with all the receipts attached. "We know everything. Don't contact either of us again. You're not getting 2 futures. You're getting none." Then we blocked him on everything. Phone, email, social media, every platform. Complete silence. Oliver tried everything. He showed up at my mother's house. She turned him away. He called my work. I'd already informed my boss and she intercepted. He sent messages through mutual friends. I told them the truth and they stopped helping him. He even hired a private investigator to find me. The investigator found Brooke instead and apparently told Oliver to leave us alone. His Instagram post about our engagement disappeared. His friends started asking questions he couldn't answer. His carefully constructed image began crumbling. I heard through the grapevine that he told people we'd broken up due to personal differences. That Brooke had been unstable and obsessive. That he was the victim in some complicated love triangle. But Brooke and I had been thorough. We'd contacted his close friends privately. Shown them the evidence. Let the truth speak for itself. The people who mattered knew what he'd done. His reputation was ruined. Not by us, by him. 3 months later, I was settled into my new life. New apartment. New routines. New boundaries. I'd blocked Oliver so completely that I never saw his attempts to reach me anymore. Mutual friends said he'd tried dating again, but women found out about his history quickly. Social media made it impossible to hide. Brooke moved out after 2 months, ready for her own space. We stayed friends. Texted regularly. Met for coffee. We'd been through something together that bonded us in a strange way. The other woman who wasn't really the other woman because neither of us was. We were both the primary relationship in our own minds. Both equally betrayed. I'd stopped wearing the ring after the first week. Kept it in a drawer. Didn't sell it or throw it away. Just let it sit there as a reminder. Not of Oliver. Of the person I'd been when I accepted it. Trusting. Naive. Willing to believe. I wasn't that person anymore. My name is Vanessa Torres. I'm 31 years old. I was engaged once to a man who proposed while maintaining a complete second relationship. The time-stamped messages ended the engagement before it truly began. People ask if I regret saying yes that night in the restaurant. The answer is complicated. I regret not looking at my phone sooner. I regret wasting 3 years on someone who saw me as a timeline instead of a person. But I don't regret what happened after. Meeting Brooke. Learning the truth. Walking away with my dignity. I'm careful now. Maybe too careful. I don't trust easily. I check timestamps. I verify stories. I look for gaps. Some people might call that damaged. Call it informed. Oliver taught me that consistency isn't honesty. That someone can love you and lie to you in the same breath. That you can build a life with someone who's simultaneously building an identical life elsewhere. The ring still sits in my drawer. Sometimes I look at it and remember the woman who said yes. She believed in forever. I believe in evidence now. And I'm okay with that.